to The Laundry List. My name is Todd. I'm your host here with Blake and Charles on a rainy Valentine's Day in Scottsdale, Arizona, and we are loving it. Having an awesome day, special day. Happy Valentine's Day to all of our listeners. Before we get going with our incredible guest, who is a dear friend of mine and I love so much, words can't express. Charles, why don't you read us the laundry list, which are the characteristics and traits that we've developed in living in dysfunctional homes.
First, Todd, is it for rejoicing or is it depressing that I didn't know today was Valentine's Day?
You didn't know.
I didn't know.
I think that's progress.
Is it progress? Yeah,
because it probably consumed you before.
I'm so sad. No one to love. No one loves me. Okay.
No Valentine's
I'm doing
Day
all right.
presents.
I'm doing right. Yeah, that's right. Okay. So as Todd said, this is the laundry list. And number one is we became isolated and afraid of people and authority figures. Number two, we became approval seekers and lost our identity in the process. Number three, we are frightened by angry people and any personal criticism. Number four, we either became alcoholics, marry them or both, or find another compulsive personality, such as a workaholic, to fulfill our sick abandonment needs. Number five, we live life from the viewpoint of victims, and we are attracted by that weakness in our love and friendship relationships. Number six, we have an overdeveloped sense of responsibility, and it's easier for us to be concerned with others rather than ourselves. And this enables us not to look too closely at our own faults. Number seven, we get guilt feelings when we stand up for ourselves instead of giving in to others. Number eight, we became addicted to excitement. Number nine, we confuse love and pity and tend to love people we can pity and ultimately rescue. Number 10, we have stuffed our feelings from our traumatic childhoods and have lost the ability to feel or express our feelings because it hurts so much. And that's also known as denial. Number 11, we judge ourselves harshly and have a very low sense of self-esteem. Number 12, we are dependent personalities who are terrified of abandonment and will do anything to hold on to a relationship in order not to experience those painful abandonment feelings. And we often receive those from living with sick people who were never there for us emotionally. Number 13, alcoholism is a family disease, and we became para-alcoholics, also known as codependent, and took on the characteristics of that disease even though we did not pick up a drink. And finally, 14, para-alcoholics are reactors rather than actors.
Charles, great stuff. I think I could identify with one of those. But besides, I think we should also start reading the other laundry list too.
We should.
Because that, I know for a lot of people and listeners that have done the work, they convert from, it's fight or flight. And, fear, you either run away or you combat it like a gladiator. And it both comes from the same spot of fear. And one is the running away, the fear little boy, and then the strong teenager who wants to kick everyone's ass is the other laundry list, right? But they're both emanating from a place of fear and being afraid and not knowing your true self. So we got a very special guest today. I've known Ashley for I don't know how many years, 15, you think?
Probably thereabouts.
15 years, and we've been through the journey together and, kind of come in each other's lives at certain times. And she's come back into my life recently. And I'm so grateful and sharing intimacy and emotions and growing together. And she's, I respect her a lot because she does the work. And I remember when you called me, I don't know how many years ago that was, 10, 11 years ago, when you were getting sober, you were like, I don't think you knew what the meaning of being your true self was, as I didn't when I got sober. And it's like now when we talk about our true self and what that means and how we want to reach that, we have a pretty good idea. And we know it doesn't involve social media. It doesn't involve money, doesn't involve shopping, doesn't involve men, doesn't involve approval from other people. It's an inside job, it's an inside job that we do. And I love your program, and I know how you're constantly striving and reaching for new levels of happiness and serenity and peace in your life and what fulfills you. And I love to see how it changes like it does in my life. So welcome to the laundry list. And I'd love to hear a little bit about when I got that call from you. Was it 11 years ago?
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. I really do appreciate the opportunity to share. This is something I'm super passionate about, is being vulnerable and just sharing my experience, strength, and hope with people, and recognizing that I don't know everything. I don't know a lot.
Right.
And it's a continuation of yesterday, of learning, and what's tomorrow going to bring, and what can I do to expand my knowledge about myself and others today. And so I'm just really grateful to be here.
Yeah, we're very glad you're here. And I was super excited that you agreed to come on and tell us a little bit about your journey. Like, what have you learned? What have you discovered? I know you've been, you've had a lot of the highs and a lot of the lows that we all experience. And then it's like, then you find a level of like peace and almost like a flat line. Mm-hmm. And some people might call that boring because we don't have like the super highs and the super lows, but I love that kind of life. The peace, the serenity, the balance. Tell us a little bit about where you came from, how you got to where you are now, and what are some of the tools you've used?
Yeah, sure. So when I've had suicidal tendencies since I was 8 years old, which is something that I've always, and then I grew up Southern Baptist in the best state ever, Texas. And but I didn't drink, and I didn't do drugs, and I didn't do a lot of things because I was going to hell for anything. So I had these voices in my head, if you will, that were just really mean all the time, and always trying to push me, but almost pushed me to suicide constantly. And I didn't come across alcohol until later on in life, but I was a cutter. And then I was bulimic for 12 years. And then I did this and this, and anything that would take me out of my head for just that simple 5 seconds. That's all I cared about. And then when I found alcohol later on in life, it was game on. And then I got into drugs and some of the other things, but I was constantly trying to find something that just quieted this drive in my head, these voices, this nonstop tapes of, you're not good enough. Why are you here? You have no purpose. All of those things that just were so loud in my life. And I don't regret any of those things being there throughout my life, because it helped drive me to where I am today. It helped drive me to having a successful career. Now, could I have been a little bit more peaceful along the journey? Absolutely. But my alcoholism took control of my life in every single form and fashion, to where I was drinking by myself in a closet at 5:00 in the morning. And in Arizona, you can go to the store and buy something at 6 a.m. And I was skipping around to all these stores at 5:55 and going and buying a bottle of vodka, a handle of vodka a day is what I was consuming. And this woman, my last day, she was like, we can't sell you alcohol because it's not 6 o'clock in the morning yet. And I was appalled. What do you mean I can't sell alcohol? So anyway, long story short is my husband and I worked together. And so he kicked me out of the house. I went back to Texas, and Todd, you were the first person I called, because Gary had no idea what was going on, because I'd hidden it so hard, because I had learned through my childhood, hide all these things because people will think you're crazy. People will make assumptions on you. You will go to hell, all of these damning things that God's going to do to you. And so I held all this in, and my husband thought I was going crazy because he didn't know how much I was drinking. And so when I called you, I said, I can't do this anymore. And you said, are you ready to put the plug in the jug? And that was like your first thing you ever said to me. And I said, yes. And it was literally as if that was my first true spiritual experience, to be able to say that I'm an alcoholic, and then the rest is from there. And I've done so much work that alcohol, that sobriety, that expansion, that in every form and fashion with sobriety, that's my life. That's my purpose. And I never would have gotten there had I not gone through this tumultuous 36 years of existence. I'm grateful I went through all of those things to get me to this place today where I can look back and go, that's not the life that I want, nor is it the life that I want anyone in my life to have. So that's given me a tremendous amount of purpose and
So
where
the pain caused you to get motivated to change and to do something different.
Yeah.
And let's back up a minute. You talk about the voices in your head. Where do you think that came from? Because there's always that debate. Is it DNA? Is it your upbringing? Is it the religious dogma of what you went through? Like, I think it's a combination of all those things. But I'd like to hear your experience of where do you think those negative voices that I'm not good enough, I should just end it. Where do those at a young age, like where do those come from?
So you're thinking, so this is 1986. So we didn't have social media. So 8 years old and thinking, this is just my experience, in my opinion, based on what I believe. I believe that we are faced with 3 different avenues that we have to deal with on through our psyche. One is we have what's happened in those first 8 years of experience of life. And I don't remember any of that. I don't remember any of that. So I can't say. So there's that. So there's clearly like a familial sort of situational, whatever happens and whenever you're in that portion of your life.
Yeah.
I also believe that there's generational issues that come through. So something that happened to your great grandmother. So those things are passed down to you, whether you believe
more
it or
genetics
not.
and,
More genetics.
And formerly. Yeah.
And then I have had experiences where I know that I've had past lives. And I believe that a lot of my past life experiences have come through. So there's 3 different avenues that I think that
affects those voices and what's going on in your mind. Yeah. I believe all 3 of those too as well. And like DeMello says, like we shouldn't spend so much time trying to figure that out, but let's figure out the future.
Yes.
Right. Let's figure out what we can do now. And I know you do a lot of work and, we had breakfast and coffee the other day with my wife and she was like super drawn to you and she does a lot of the same work. So talk about some of the stuff you're doing today. I know you spent a lot of time in the Far East, in the last year, and now you're doing energy work and all kinds of other stuff. So talk about like, where do you get drawn to? Like, where is it just like where the road leaves, where God leads you, or do you like ask people like what's working for them? Or like, how does the river flow for you to get to that next, stop?
Let me think about this for a second. Sometimes I just have to drop into my heart, make sure it comes from there.
That's good.
The path has been nothing like I thought it was going to be. I knew that I've always been drawn to India. And so I've spent a lot of time in India over the past 9 years. And in fact, I'm going back in a few weeks. And I don't know why. But again, I don't have to, right? But through a lot of processes that I've gone through in India, that's expanded my interest in understanding energy work and in breath work. And so it's just, I learn by experiences. So last May, I was suicidal. I had written out everything. I mean, it was May. I'm totally sober, but my world got small. And I just said, fuck it, I'm out of here. And I went on a sabbatical for a month. I had no idea what to do. And I just went there and I was just like, God, just show me.
By yourself?
By myself. Well, my family went and then I stayed for a month. I was supposed to stay for 1 week and then 2 weeks and then a month later. And I had no hotel. I had no idea. And I just literally got on my knees and I'm like, God, I have no idea what I'm doing here. Just show me. And it was the best month I could ever imagine because I truly gave over my willingness to a power that I can never understand, nor do I ever have to. But from there, I learned that I really wanted to go into the shamanic breath work. And I've had a lot of practice behind that, the holotropic breath work. And then and then fast forward a couple of months, I was certified in, it's called Inner Journey Breath Work. So what I find is that the things that are drawn to me, that I'm drawn to, I kind of have an inkling to, but at this phase in my life, I'm just like, I don't know, please show me. I never would have come down here had you not, had we not had breakfast and, reconnected. Like, I just know that the life that I could imagine is nothing like the life that's to come so long as I put in the work.
Yeah. Yeah. I say I've lived 55 years on this planet, and I really am just doing it one day at a time.
Yeah.
Like there is no next year, next, 5 years, 10 years. Like it's literally my life evolves today. That's all I got, because when I start planning 5 years, 10 years, like I have no idea.
No.
I mean, that's like my dad's favorite joke, how to make God laugh, tell him your future plans,
Yeah.
And it's like, my dad is the quirkiest joke teller of all time, but that one I actually like, it's like, we don't know,
No.
but I believe that our thoughts and our behavior and the energy we surround ourselves by does help direct our future. And I'm trying lately to surround myself by very positive people and people that are really vulnerable and open and not trying to put on a show and not, guarded and it feels good, and it feels good. And then the more I do that, the more I attract people that want to get deeper and talk about like pain and suffering and fear. And that's to me, like the greatest gift I could give back is my experience, strength, and hope of what I went through, no matter what it is, codependency, alcoholism, abandonment, whatever it is, that I can share that with somebody else and say, there's hope.
Yes.
It's going to get better.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's, like my greatest joy in life is to do that. It's not to, like we talked about, start another business or make another dollar. It's really just, it's really being of service to myself and to somebody else, which really is being a service to God, and I sent you a bunch of stuff I've been listening to recently called The Way to Mastery. And, there's 38 lessons in book 1, which is amazing because I'm like, I can't get off lesson like 2 or 3 or 4. I just keep getting stuck there. But, the lesson 2 is that we create our own experiences on a daily basis and that we have to say that verbally. Like I am creating this experience and this experience is amazing. I'm creating this experience and this experience is amazing. And it's like you say it over and over again to the point where you start to believe that God part of you inside of you is actually creating these experiences. So, it's confusing because in a lot of the work I've done, it's like, let go, let God, just let God take over. But then this teaching is, no, I can create my own experiences based on my belief and my attitude and the vision I have in my head for what's going on. And it's really cool because it does work. I could be in a real funk in my mind. And if I say that over and over again in different parts of my day, it's amazing how great I feel. It's like gratitude just comes back.
Yeah.
Have you done some of that work?
Yes. In fact, it's interesting because it's not, I think because initially whenever I say let go and I was just willing, I do the work to make sure that I show up. It's kind of like the joke that DeMello tells about the guy who's asking for a lottery ticket.
Right.
And he says, God, why aren't you giving me a lot? Why won't you let me win the lottery?
Right.
And God looks down on him and says, just buy the ticket.
Right.
You have to buy the ticket. You have to buy the work,
do
the work. But I think that like, it's a matter of like today, even I started to create a negative viewpoint, a negative view of something. And I caught myself and I'm like, is that how I'm going to see this experience? And I was able to shift it back to something a little bit greater than what the situation could have, what the way my mind wanted to go was defense, fear, abandonment, all of those things. That's where it wanted to go. So I was able to, at the moment, and this is like, as you said, it's a constant practice, but pull back and go, is it really? Is that situation something I should be reacting in that way to? And that was very, that tape you sent me.
Yeah.
Really helped out a lot.
It's all practice. It's all self-love. It's all self-love. And, lesson 3 is all about forgiveness. And we can practice forgiveness for everybody in our life in the current moment, whether they're here or not. And it's like just practicing that lesson has helped me tremendously, giving compassion to my parents and business people and people in the past that have had a real hard time letting go of resentment and anger and judgment. And now when I feel like whenever I judge somebody else or a situation, it's like I get a gut kick, like, hold on, wait, why are you judging somebody else? because we're all the same, right? We all have that God energy, that God light in us, and we're all connected through that. And we just have this skin suit or the ego, this conscious mind that separates us. But deep down, we're all exactly the same. So why am I judging someone else? Because really, I'm judging myself.
Yes.
And it just having that knowledge and that practice is amazing. But on a daily basis, I mean, how many times are we like in a business meeting and we're talking about another firm, a competitor, another employee? I mean, it's constant. So it's like constant vigilance and practice to get out of that. That's why I'm excited not to be in the business world so much in the future, because it's everywhere, social media. I mean, social media is just a disaster, right?
Yes.
I mean, it's I think of Mother Teresa and Jesus and the Dalai Lama. Well, Dalai Lama talks about it. He talks about how just poisonous social media is. And he even said when he first came to this country, he's like, I was expecting, because you guys have everything, that everyone was going to be so happy and just, kicking their heels and just full of joy. And he got here, and after a week, he just started crying, and he couldn't stop crying because he just saw how addicted we are to this attachments and social media and wanting things. And where he comes from, it's like, they don't really have anything. And it's like, they have each other. They have personal relationships. They have God. They have community,
family.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Breath work, those kind of things. Yes. And it's like, he came here for the first time. I think it was in New York. And he was talking about how the expectation was that we were going to be all happy and have it all figured out. And he couldn't stop crying after, a few days here. And, it's true. I tell people all the time, social media is poison. It's one of those things where it'll take you down because you are, as my wife says, you'll compare and despair. That's why she doesn't do social media. Mm-hmm. She doesn't even have an account. It's compare and despair. Mm-hmm. And the people I want to hang out with, like you and my wife, and, they're not living in the world of checking out. They're living the world of checking in.
Yes.
Feeling the feelings, talking about the feelings, not gossiping, not judging. And if we do, we call each other out. I mean, we're not perfect, But tell me about how excited you are for your next journey in life. And I know we talked a little bit about eventually winding down the business career,
yes,
helping other, women,
mm-hmm,
try to find what you have found, and what is that going to look like? And tell me how excited you are for that next chapter of your life.
I just get energetically vibrating whenever I start thinking about it. I've been in this career for 21 years. Wow. And it's amazing. I'm so grateful for my team. I love my company. I love what we've built as an organization for women and for our clients. And I love all of that. But I found that it's hard for me to be congruent in that. And so while I'm thinking 5 years,
maybe less.
We'll see. But what I really want to do is, I have been given the gift. We have been given the gift through Alcoholics Anonymous, in my experience, that we have an answer to our problems. We have the 12 steps. We have a community. Mm-hmm. We give it away for free. One of the principles, or one of the sayings in AA is, practice these principles in all of our affairs. So my vision is, how can I practice these principles in all of my affairs? How can I help women come to their truest self, to have a relationship with a power greater than themselves, and live a life that is beyond something that they think they can ever attain otherwise? And then, more importantly, how can those women end up helping others down the line? And right now, one of the things that I've found that's been great and very helpful in the way I've mentor people or mentor women is through breath work. Because what breath work does is, people get very, very in their heads. And the breath work that I help facilitate, or not I help, the breath work that I facilitate actually will take you out of your consciousness into your subconscious, into where you get to a place where you can just let yourself be, where you can, through your breath, through this continuous motion of breath, through these 7 or 8 songs that take you through each one of your chakras, you get to start feeling this vibrational release. And it's sometimes it's good, sometimes you're hot, sometimes you're cold, but you can start to realize that your body hangs on to things that you can't explain. We have this stuff that we just put on into our hearts and into our souls, and it just stays there. Well, the breath helps break that up, if you will. And through these 45-minute, hour-long processes at this time, they can get closer to that, just that one little experience. Because right now, what people may be listening to and going, well, they have spent so much time, I'll never get there. Breath work is a great way to start, because you start to see your capabilities that your own self, that your own breath can give you in a way that alcohol, drugs, and otherwise can't.
Yeah, I've done it a few times, and it's intimidating. It's incredibly tiring. Like the next day I was wiped, but it's also like very healing. And I found I was seeing visions. I was crying.
Yes.
I was ecstatic, like happy. I was all over the map, but I remember I was starving and exhausted the next day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think the first one I did was 3 hours, and I did one that was an hour. But I mean, it was very healing, you know. And my ex-wife does a lot of hypnotherapy, and that too has been very beneficial for me. You know, going into hypnosis and seeing kind of who I am from a subconscious standpoint.
Yeah.
Charles, what do you have for Ashley? I know you and Blake have been quiet, but what do you have for Ashley today?
Oh, there's a couple things that you said that resonate with me significantly. Certainly, my path also looks much different than I had thought it was going to be. Right? I remember early on in my 20s, I was going to be on the path of early exit. Mm. I was on the path of there was really not much of a future. I'm going to enjoy my exit strategy, right? And it was kind of dark and dismal in the early 20s. I remember being very optimistic and positive, but I fell deep into those feelings of not being good enough, right? Where do I fit in? And the world is disappointing, right? And whether it's Alcoholics Anonymous or whether it's Tibet, or you found something, and for our listeners, it can come in many different forms. But you know, then for me, there was an amazing progression on that path. Right. And then I get sober, and then I enter into the business world. Right. And I started that with Todd, and then I started setting records, both good and bad. Right. I was either your best employee or your worst employee. I was either setting the sales records or I was at the very bottom. And then it took me a while to find that stability. But the other thing too, you know, I do not, prior to doing some of the work that I've done here, I didn't remember, you know, ages 0 to 14.
Yeah.
And certainly the happiness, my circumstances always precluded me from feeling whatever it was, right? It was preventing me from any type of solution, even breathing. No, I can't breathe right now. Everything's too much of a disaster. I don't even breathe, slow down. Right. And so, I guess I love the answer about you're going to India and you don't even know why. It's just, that's where God's taking you. So I would just like to hear more about that. You find solace you shut off the phone, you shut off the equipment. Tell me about what you do in the upcoming and how you stayed for a month longer than you wanted to before. That's kind of another area where you can get in tune with yourself and God.
Yeah. I actually called it a sabbatical, so that people wouldn't reach out. And I tried to put my toe back into work just a little bit, like the day everyone left. I think it's just natural habit. And I got slapped hard verbally, like, are you kidding me? You're on sabbatical. Like, don't even think about your emails. Don't worry about our clients. Like, we got you. Like, take this time. And so I shut off. And when I'm in India in a few weeks, I'm actually taking my husband, and he's like, "What are we doing?" And I was like, "I don't know." And he likes to have things structured, and this is what we're doing. And I was like, "We'll just figure it out, and we'll turn it off." And then I just signed up for some breathwork facilitating coursework in Belgium in October, and I don't know what I'm going to call it yet. Maybe it's a mini sabbatical, but I will turn it off. because my soul needs it. Because I can't.
It's scary to turn it off, but once you do, you're like, holy moly. Like I've been turning it off lately the last couple months, and I can't tell you how much peace and serenity I get. And I don't need the approval. I don't need approval from women, from business people, from anybody.
No.
And it comes from within.
Yeah. And it's because otherwise I don't want to get back to that place that I was before.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to get back to May. Like laying on the floor like that. I never want to get back there. And so what can I do? I can just honor myself and honor the good and the bad and all the rest of it. And just say, if that's what you need is just to shut off, then that's what you get.
I love it.
Yeah, I definitely identify with the being depressed and having those thoughts for no good reason, right? Like everything could be perfect on the outside and success and, whatever it might be, and being like broken on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's, did you get some relief immediately when you went to India, or was it like, did it kind of unfold and unravel along the way?
I think it's unfolded and unraveled it's kind of like when you take a journey.
Yeah.
Like whenever we take some of our, and I pointed to Todd because there's been journeys that we've shared that Todd and I had been on separately, and you get downloads. Like you don't know why or how, but you just kind of get downloads, and then you do reflection, and then you kind of just notice that these changes are happening. But I think it's the same thing with, like, it's not just these, like, you just don't go to India without doing a massive amount of work to get to that place. It's not like, okay, if I go there, then this will happen. It's like, no. Every day, I caught myself there. Every day you show up, and you might backtrack. So what? Then you show up again tomorrow. And then when you go to India, or you go to some of these places, or you go to a journey, or you go to AA meetings, or you go to, ACA meetings, or whatever it is, you can put in more work and more time, and that just lifts our soul, and that just lifts us up more and more. And so it's kind of like this, like, you can't really pinpoint. Nothing has been instrumental. The only thing that's ever been instrumental in my sobriety is my relationship with my higher power. Like, if that is solid, everything else will come across. Everything else will. I just know that through the journeys that I've taken in India, and through Bali, and through, South America, and so on and so forth, it's like, that's just helped me get closer to God.
Yeah.
What would you say to our listeners that are in a marriage or relationship that they know at a soul level is not right for them? What would you say to our listeners that are they're in a job that they know deep down at a soul level, again, is not right for them, but they're just on that hamster wheel, and like they're afraid to get off because they don't know what lies ahead if they get off? I know I didn't want to get divorced after 22 years, and it wasn't my choice. And I went through a lot of pain, but now I look back and I'm like, thank God that experience happened. What would you say to those folks that are kind of like in fear, but afraid to make a move, whether it's career, relationship, that they're scared to death of what is in front of them if they make that move, whether it's business or relationship?
I'm a big believer in community. I'm a big believer in recognizing that people around me know more than I do. So finding someone who has what you want. Yeah.
And they can see it objectively and subjectively because they're not attached.
Correct.
And when I'm in something, like I was convinced I was going to stay married till I was dead. And that wasn't the plan. That's not what happened. And I had to lean on my community to be, subjective and say, Todd, let's look at this. Yeah. What do you love? What do you love about your wife?
Yeah.
Let's maybe it is a great relationship. Let's go through the list. And all I could say is that she was like, that she just couldn't leave. Like I couldn't even look at her characteristics, pros and cons, because I was so into the abandonment that I couldn't even look at what I love about her, what I don't like about her. And it's like, that was codependency, trait number 12 at its finest. And how do I fix that? Well, get divorced and start dating like a fiend to get approval, right? And that doesn't work, because then you're like, oh, another man, another woman. Like, we all know that doesn't work. You're just trying to fill the hole. And then you wake up and you're like, 40, and like, where's my life? So it's like, to me, it's intimate relationships that can't get started until you really know yourself.
Truth.
And the only way to know yourself is be by yourself, not alone, but be by yourself in solitude, with not being lonely, but being like comforted with God and yourself. Because I love solitude these days. And I was always afraid of it. Yes. I was always afraid of being alone. Yes. I was always afraid of not having my phone blow up, or being on social media, or getting approval. Like, oh, that girl thinks you're cute, or like, all that childish bullshit, And now you look at it and it's like, I could give a shit who thinks what of me, As long as me and God have the wink and we're good, that's all that matters to me. But it takes a while to get there.
It absolutely does. Because
outside influences, like the Dalai Lama says, like, he couldn't believe how much we needed other people's approval in this Western society. And that's something they don't really experience there. They're not, they don't have the things we have, but they're not looking for other people's approval to validate themselves.
It's true.
Here we're like constantly looking for the guy or the girl or the social media like, or we're looking for something to make us feel better about ourselves. The drink, the drug, the shopping. We can go through eating, cutting. there's a million things, right?
It's funny. I purposely wear black 100% of the time. Let's not 100. Let's go to 95% of the time.
Okay.
And I do it because I like it. And because no one can ever say her outfit's not in style or anything like that. I've pulled myself back from that completely. And I only wear black for that reason, because I know it's going to be easy to travel with, and I can give a shit if people think I look attractive or not. Like, that to me was a huge thing to get over, is just pulling back from that need of, oh, I hope I'm wearing what is in style. It's like, no, I feel good.
You want men to look at you, you know. I remember when I started dating my wife, and I bought her a bunch of clothes, and she goes, I can't wear these clothes. These clothes are slutty. I'm like, well, I want you to look sexy. She goes, I have no desire to have men look at me.
Yeah.
I want you to look at me. I don't want any other man to look at me. I don't need that anymore. I needed that when I was 16, but I don't need that now that I'm in love with you and getting married to you. And that was a hard concept for me to understand, because I'm like, well, I want my girl to, like, everybody to be staring at her. But now that I've done the work, like, I don't. Like, I have no desire, and so I had to return a bunch of clothes. But, she's like, I want to dress sexy for you, but that's in the privacy of our own home. And it's like, I don't need to be wearing this stuff out in public, like you see in Old Town Scottsdale, right? And then, that's maturity. Here's a 35-year-old woman who's telling the 55-year-old man with 24 years sobriety, like, she's teaching me. Like, so people teach me every day of who I want to be and who I don't want to be, more importantly. And I think I just have to have my eyes and ears open, because it's sometimes such a fast life that we don't really have our eyes and ears open of pulling what we want to create ourselves, our true selves. And I think going to India, and, I have not done that. And that's something I probably will want to do in my life. And, take a few weeks or a month off and just really find that time to, to really download who I want to be.
But the one thing I want to mention is, because wherever you go, there you are.
Right.
I have a friend who went to Bali after I went there, because they thought, well, this is, she found this there, and they came back and they're like, well, I didn't have that same experience that you had there. And I was like, I know you didn't, because they brought their entire thing. They were like, if I go there, it's going to be fixed because she came back in a better place. It's like, no, do the work beforehand and take a better version of yourself there, so you can fully embrace the situation and be fully present to what surrounds you. And then just let the city take you over, or let the island take you over, or whatever it may be.
Where do you go there?
So I went to Bali. I just went all around.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I just kind of, I don't know. I did like, I don't know why I'm going to Belgium in October, but it came across and I'm like, this is what I'm doing. And Gary's like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah. Recently I've had a calling to go to Kauai because my boys love Kauai, and also to India and the Far East because I actually want to spend a couple weeks just doing the way to mastery.
Yeah.
Like that's been my calling, is like to find time where I can just do the way to mastery for a few weeks straight.
Yes.
And not have any interruptions, not have a Zoom call at 4. It's like I need 2-3 weeks where there's no Zoom calls, there's no, text, there's no internet, and that is something that's been calling to me recently since I started doing the way to mastery. It's like I do it in the bathroom, I do it in the car, I do it at home, I put it on when I go to sleep, but like there's something about doing it fluidly, consistently for a period of time without any interruptions.
Yes.
I think it like seeps in and becomes part of the fabric.
It does.
When you do that.
Yeah.
So that, to me, that's been a calling recently. And I'm just started noticing it like in my dreams and talking about it. It's like, that's something I really want to do. But again, there's some fear like, oh, I got to leave my wife who, may be pregnant here this next week. And I might have to leave my business and, my family and like, but you know what? Like you got to take those leaps.
You do. You come back a better person.
Yeah.
For your wife, future child, your family.
Yeah. That's what I think too.
That's just been my experience.
Yeah. No, I love it. And I've heard those experiences and, but like you said, like, I don't want to go there and like take me and everything with me.
Yes.
I want to take me and leave this stuff here. And I've done a lot of different kinds of work over the years. And for me, the biggest distraction would be taking the screens, taking the screens, the laptop, the iPad, the iPhone, just leaving all that just gives me a little bit of anxiety, just like immediately. But knowing what the result would be if I did do that, like I know what the result would be. I know I would come back this like just less intense. I mean, the body tells it all.
Sure.
Like, and if I just get rid of all that tension, I've been doing a lot of somatic therapy, which is, I don't know if you ever tried somatic therapy, but it's unbelievable. They like shut down your adrenal system and they shut down like all of your, basically everything that makes you kind of hyper. And by just touching places on your body,
get out.
And I walk away. I fall asleep most of the time. And then I walk away. I can't even drive. It's like, I'm almost like high and I'm driving home and I'm like, holy cow. And I went in there super hyper and jacked up. And 45 minutes later, I'm coming out of there just like, and I want to be in that state more because it's a beautiful state. And if you talk to like all these current mystics, it's like, yeah, they don't want more action. They don't want more activity. Like my therapist, spent some time with Mother Teresa 25 years ago, my therapist, and he's like telling me there was a certain energy and presence about her. And it wasn't about getting more people, more stuff, but there was an energy and presence about her. He goes, that was infectious. It was like this humility. And like, she helps people not to be known or, talked about because it feeds her soul. Yeah. And, that's what I want. That's what I want. I could get 20 business calls in a day, but it's the guys that are in pain that need help that I want to call back first.
Yes. Agree with that.
Yeah. So what do you have for the closing arguments for our listeners that are doing the work? This is a podcast about relationships, how to improve the relationships. And I think it always, like you said, it starts with yourself.
Yes.
You can't fix someone else. So you might as well fix yourself.
Yeah. And we all know how hard it is to fix somebody else. It doesn't work. Just what do you have to lose? Just giving yourself that, just being everything that you can in the moment and recognizing that you don't have to be 5 yards down the line. You don't have to be at the finish line. You don't have to be anywhere. Just accepting where you are today and then working with that. Not shaming yourself for not being further along, not praising yourself for being further along than your friends, just being in your own body, in your own skin, and just recognizing that there's so much I can do, but there's also a lot I can't. And just understanding your limitations.
Yeah. I call that being nice to my friend. You know, we gotta be nice to our friend. And, you know, it's like, I'm the hardest on myself way more than anybody else.
Yes.
So much harder on myself. And sometimes my wife or my therapist will like look at me and go like, why are you beating the shit out of yourself? Because was my programming. You know, you got to do more. You got to excel. You got to, how'd you fuck that up? You know, like it's not all these self-validations, which is like the whole ACA program about reparenting yourself. It's more about what didn't you do, you know, and that's the critical parent. So I got the validating reparent, loving parent, and then on one shoulder, and then I got the critical parent on the other shoulder. And it's like, who's going to get more, you know, FaceTime with me? Who's going to get more of a voice? And that's where I put that energy. And that's why meditation and visuals and mantras and all that stuff, you know, breath work and journeys, it's all so important because to me, that brings the light.
It does.
That brings God, that brings the light, and it takes rid of that critical parent to the point where it diminishes it to where it pops up once in a while, but then I got the tools to get rid of it.
Yeah.
So very grateful that you came on, and, you know, please give us reviews, listen to us on the Laundry List, wherever you get your podcast. Our email is info. What is our? The Laundry List podcast at gmail.com. The Laundry List podcast at gmail.com. Leave us reviews, 5 stars, 4 stars, feedback. If you want to come on the podcast, please let us know. Charles will book you. And thank you so much, Ashley, for coming on. We are so grateful. And I can't wait to hear about your journey that you are going on. And we'll have you on in a few months.
I look forward to it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.